Welcome, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Live by Heart Today with your hosts, Dawn Spiegelberg and Wendy R. Wolf. Our show begins now. Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by We Are Historically, Conscious Brand Apparel. It's time for the next episode of Live by Heart
Today.
Hello and welcome to the Live by Heart Today show number 31. This is a show designed to help you navigate change, uncertainty, and the new world we found ourselves living in. We'll talk a little bit about science, a little bit about how our body works, a little bit about intuition, and we'll talk a lot about transformation. I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, posture therapist and coherence coach. Our focus is on being proactive, and today's theme is in search of resolution. With me for today's Heart to Heart is my co-host, Wendy R. Wolf, a professional transformation facilitator. Thanks so much for being with me today, Wendy.
Thank you, Dawn. What a great time for us to be delving into these really useful distinctions that serve us all the time, everywhere, and now. It's really great. Being proactive, acting instead of reacting. It's foundational.
And right now, we're all really close to being reactionary, given what the recent events has brought our way.
Mm-hmm.
So we are living on the edge of coming to terms with an outcome. And it's not really resolved in my mind yet. So the practice that I've put into place is foundational, which happens to be number one in our list of ways to take the best action, the right action. And it has to do with rest. And for me, rest is really resting moment by moment. So I'm taking bigger breaths. Physiologically, when you take short, shallow breaths, that amps up the nervous system and shifts you into sympathetic nervous system. So in order to maintain a state of rest and keep my energy stores high, I've been taking deep breaths. And I even have a little timer so that it reminds me every 20 minutes to take a big, deep breath, and not just one, but multiple. What are you doing, Wendy, to help you with this time that we're experiencing?
Well, I should say I just moved, and that's always a time of reflection and reorganization and intensity. For me, I just moved out here to Myrtle Beach, and oh God, what a blessing. And I'll just go to point two. I mean, there's so much I could say, but investigating and using my senses. I'm noticing what is, and I'm noticing like that people are great. People are so great. The people at the store, the people at this place that I live, the people that, I meet going down the street or going down the beach. Everyone is, it's so easy to get hooked into enemy images. So easy to get hooked into they're bad and they're wrong and they're out to get me, and it's too easy. But my actual senses, if I'm not reading something, my actual senses are saying, I love these people. I love this place. I love this. Like, it's so beautiful to be alive, and it's so beautiful to be relating to each other. And that really helps to keep noticing that.
You're making a very good point about what direction your focus is. So rather than being focused on what's happening outside you and happening to you, right? That's a focus of what's happening inside you. You're looking from inside to the outside. And that's an investigation, right? You're actually not assuming that everybody's out to get you to begin with, because if that's where you start from, then you find it in the world, right? If you look around and look for everything that's blue in your room, you see all the things that are blue, but you don't see anything that's green. So if you're looking for all the bad things in the world or all the things that people will do against you, then that's what you find. So it's beautiful that you're looking out from yourself, from neutrality. You're looking to see what actually is. And isn't that our number 3?
Yeah, number 3 is being with it, being with what we find. I find, that people are wonderful, and I find also that, there's some concerning things going on in the world. Can I be with that and not judge and resist it, and not try to place blame, and not run away, and not fight and kill? Can I just be with it?
And that's where breathing comes in.
Yeah.
Because you can be inside your body no matter what's happening outside you.
Yeah. And this is the crux of the matter, from my perspective. It de-energizes the rest of all this stuff that we're talking about. It takes all the impulsing out of it, being compulsed to have to see a certain way and react a certain way. To just be like, okay, this is what is. I might not have liked it. I still might not like it. Can I just relax? There's lots of things I don't like.
That impulsiveness that you mentioned, I really think impulsiveness and compulsion comes through when people don't understand what their unique contribution is. So if I don't know what I'm supposed to do in my life and something happens that I don't like, then I'll take many, many actions, right? I could do lots of different things. I could get mad. I could develop hatred. I could be frustrated. And if I keep my life purpose at the forefront, if I understand what I'm here to do, then I know what my outlet is. And what comes to mind is remembering when my children were really young. And I noticed other young mothers were getting lost in motherhood, right? They were losing themselves. And I discovered they didn't know what their purpose was. And while I was doing all the same things, changing diapers, feeding, cleaning, the whole everything is directed at just keeping this child alive and well.
Yeah.
I didn't lose sight of what my purpose really was. And so I got better rest. I was really able to see more clearly, and other parents were burnt out and unhappy. There was a very stark difference. So knowing your contribution and then doing it.
Yeah.
Doing that contribution in the world really makes a big difference.
It's huge. It's really huge. And, my whole thing is about being the change, and that involves doing. It matters. It matters even if I'm just home, reading or looking at the, listening to the radio or whatever. And if I'm being all kinds of disturbed, if I fall into raging around or whatever I do, it actually really matters. It's part of what I believe is all of our calling, is to ring the bell of hope, ring the bell of love, ring the bell of, that we want to ring the bells we want to ring, not the bells that we don't want to see in the world. Do I want to see more anger and rage in the world? Not really. If it's there, that's fine. But I don't need to be starting that parade.
And when you're in the parade of anger, that perpetuates the anger in the world. And then you see more anger.
Yeah. And it's like all the emotions are okay. Like that's fine. That's fine. And as a matter of fact, I just did a workshop the other day about how to positively utilize soul anger in our lives. It's awesome. But if I'm just carried away by raging and breaking
Mm,
furniture or something, it's not the direction that I
right,
want to go.
right. And I
Um,
call that hatred. I distinguish that from anger. I call it
mhm.
hatred.
Yeah. So my point is like we matter. I really, really believe we matter. And so if the more I can be with what is, then I'm helping everybody else be with what is. Whereas
Mm,
if I'm falling into hatred, if I'm falling, if hatred, um, or violence, then I can't be surprised when there's more of it.
mm. You're talking about our number 4, which is looking for what's possible. So when I respond to my child and I'm trying to do something and he says, "Oh, would you please hand me a dish?" And I'm right in the middle of trying to flip the burger so they don't get overdone. And I've got to make sure the onions are turned off and the toaster smells like burning, I got burning bread in the toaster. Uh, do I say yes to my child? Or do I say, no, get it yourself? Or do I say, oh, sweetheart, do you need it right this second? I'll be a minute. So that's the creativity. That's the can I see of all the possibilities
Mm-hmm.
available to me,
Yes.
which one am I choosing?
Yes. Yeah. So 4, what is possible? And then 5, conscious choosing.
Yes.
So important, so
Yeah.
useful. And honestly, this whole, what were the words you used? Knowing our purpose. It really helps. Like out of my purpose, out of my who I am or who I want to be or what I want to bring to the world or the impact
Mm-hmm.
I want to leave.
Yes.
Okay, here's the possibilities. I've really relaxed. Well, there's more possibilities. What do I want to choose out of that trajectory instead of
Mm-hmm.
reaction?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love your vignettes like that, Dawn. It's so tangible, so
Oh, thanks.
sensorial. Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about it being a contribution, our contribution should be distinguished from the physiological response of fear. And that's what shifts our perspective. So when we're in fear, when we're overcome with hatred and outrage, that's all about me. That's all about my standing and my discomfort. So my nervous system is looking for the threat that is not allowing me to be safe. And when I'm safe, I'm not living in hatred, anger, and outrage.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
really it always comes down to how are you living? What are you allowing yourself to experience in your body?
Mm-hmm.
Which moves us to number 6, which is taking action. And the actions we take are in our body.
Yes. And last time we gave this a little short uh, attention, so I'm excited about saying more about action because it's so fundamental.
It
It's
is.
what everyone sees.
Yes. It's the fruit of the
Mm-hmm.
labor, it's the output of what's inside us. In fact, an author from a long time ago, James Allen, says, as a man thinketh, so is he, which means how you think in your mind then sets up what you do in your life, which is
Mm-hmm.
an amazing concept. And in fact, the Bible talks about this too, right? They talk
Mm-hmm.
about, your faith will be understood by the things that you do and the behaviors that you have. And so when it comes to action, I'd like to make a distinction that when we are living in fear and anxiety, the lower vibration, and I'm talking about over time, right? Like a constant pattern of living this way. Our body loses its energy reserves because that takes up energy. It requires energy because you're constantly perceiving a threat to your safety and you're using energy in order to protect yourself, in order to reestablish a safety.
Mm-hmm.
And when you shift out of that, when you set aside anger and frustration and anxiety and worry is one of them too, when you're able to set those things aside, then your body shifts and your nervous system restores the energy. It allows you to reset yourself. And this is really important because so many of us are taking actions from depletion. And those actions are fraught with fussing, and it might not be the right action. And we're just trying to do something
Mm-hmm.
instead of being able to see the whole array of what's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I am hearing a lot of people reporting how tired they are. And of course, I mean, we already had a society in which rest was not valued, and often unconscious, just scurrying was encouraged, and we just keep adding more pressure. And some people are more fear. So, of course, but yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, when you're in higher levels of stress, and what's amazing is that stress is something we habituate to. So we get accustomed to a certain level of stress, and if we don't change it to come back down from that stress, that level of stress becomes the new normal.
Yeah.
And then we can add stress onto that, and then this higher level can become a new normal. So people don't realize just how much stress they're under because it's been stacking for so long. And when we're under constant states of stress, our minds don't think clearly. It actually inhibits cognitive function.
Yeah.
So if your mind isn't thinking clearly, then you're not going to really be able to fall asleep at night, or you may wake up and not be able to fall back asleep. And it all ties together. People don't understand. The physiology is so clear that what happens in our mind, the stress levels that we live under, have a direct effect on our body and on our ability to take good action, on our ability to see what our contribution is, to see what our purpose is. And you're mentioning desperation, right? We become desperate. We become hopeless. And right now, we need hope. Right now, we need certainty. We need calmness. We need to unite instead of being so divided.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I want to say is that I have a lot of hope, and it's not contingent on what happens in the next week in the world.
I love that. It's not contingent on what just happened last Tuesday or what happened last March with coronavirus, that your hope stands.
Oh, gosh. There's like, we're all moving towards such beauty. We're all moving toward it. And that is inexorable. It may be slower or faster, maybe rockier or not, but that's where I stand. And so I just wanted to say that because there's a lot of people I know on more, on lots of sides that are attached to a certain outcome.
Yes.
And I'll be okay if it's this, and I won't be okay if it's that. And that is not, Jesus talked about building on shifting sand. Right? It's the rock that we build on that matters. Because this world is interesting. But we can still build on rock.
We're in search of resolution. And if you're building on sand, then there's little hope. There's very little hope. But building on a rock, building on truth, and deciding, this is really fascinating to me, deciding that you'll be okay no matter what an outcome is.
Of course. Of course. Yeah. And this might, this might be crazy talk for some people. And I just want to say that you and I have invested 30 weeks. This is the 31st time this great show is here. And we keep talking about what's possible.
Yes.
We keep talking about, if we choose, we can have a particular experience, a particular kind of life, and a particular impact in the world. And that is not going to just happen by taking a pill. And you do such really great stuff, and I do such really great stuff, and they're very complementary. But people can do stuff with us or other things, but I keep talking about this, but it's so important to hear that, because people are like, well, I heard your show, it's great, but for me, I have these intrusive thoughts, I can't stop them. I have these emotions, I can't stop them. I have this kind of life, and I have no choices. And that, we're here to say, that's too bad, and we can change.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say? I was kind of talking for you.
It's all beautiful. I would say we need to take a short break, and I'll answer your question when we come back.
Awesome.
And thank you to our sponsor for making the show possible. Hooray!
Welcome back to the Live by Heart Today show. We are in search of resolution. And Wendy just asked me a beautiful question about how to manage with so many things happening and with my mind searching for resolution, with my body being stressed. How is it that you and I have a different experience than what other people are having? I think when you look at what is true, and this is very important, because truth not based solely in your experience, because I can experience that every time I touch a hot pan that's been in the oven, that I will get burned from the hot pan. And I can associate getting burned with the pan. Mm-hmm. But if the pan never makes it in the oven, the pan's not going to be hot. And that's the wrong association, right? It's not the pan. It's the fact that it was in the oven.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to something like cause and effect, when we look at the actual cause, the cause of your neutrality, the cause of my certainty, it's because we're looking for something underneath. We're associating something other than external circumstance, something other than external situation, even our own experience. We keep our eyes on our own paper. We look to a source that is not an emotional experience, that is not a mental construct, that is not a physical experience. We're looking to a source, and the name of the show is Live by Heart, which is a key to what and where that source is. So we are focusing on how it's possible to see more options. And I want you to share with people who are watching an invitation that you have for them to toe dip this Saturday. So that's just 2 days away, and powerful stuff. Why don't you mention it?
Thank you, Dawn. So kind. So this Saturday, I have a meditation and healing circle that's taking place Eastern time, 1:30 in the afternoon on Saturday. And it's called Being with What Is, Healing with Soul, Truth, and Trust. And so life is really intense. It always is. And is intense now. So can we invite the blessings of heaven and earth? Can we be here now? All these things we're talking about, we're going to do within in meditation for ourselves and for our world. And this particular time, we're working with Mother Mary to help us. So please be in touch if you want more information, and we'll get it to you.
This is beautiful because it is the pathway. It is one doorway into living by heart, because it is a complete shift. You are amazing at transformation and demonstrating how people can stand in their own being and influence the world rather than being constantly affected by the world. It's a different experience. And if we think back to some of our great leaders, they were not controlled by the circumstances in the world. They stood up, they stood out, and they made a stand. So they were affecting the world. They were choosing how they were showing up in the world. And that's what made them great leaders. That's what makes everyone impactful.
Yeah, you go. Yeah. You know what I keep hearing as we're talking the last couple of minutes, I keep hearing playing the long game. You know, in our society, we've gotten so short. Everything's so like, are you going to make money today? You know, like, are you going to have an impact today? It's like, can we have a long game? And, you know, the other thing that I keep hearing is Jesus, because we're talking about action. We're talking a lot of things, but we're talking about action. And he said, out of the contents of the heart, the mouth speaks, which is action. We do and we say. And, you know, his choices were not the short game. I mean, no matter what you think about him, he was playing a long game, especially those last few days were really rough. And like, if that's all it is, who wants it?
Right. That's what we turn away from. Right.
Who needs that?
Yes. We see the immediate in front of us. It's like my children. They see the broccoli in front of them and they're like, oh, but broccoli is the long game.
Yes, it's the long game.
And I tell them, you got to eat your broccoli. You just have to eat it. And every meal, there's something they have to eat. And I joke with them and say, this is so when you go to your girlfriend's house for dinner and you taste something you've never tasted, you don't wince and you don't make a funny face and you don't refuse it, right? It's building their character, but it's a long game of health. And we just had Halloween. And so I say, eat all your candy, eat it all at once. So they get sick and they see that it's not good for them, right? Because you can keep eating broccoli, but eating lots of broccoli doesn't necessarily make you sick. You naturally stop eating broccoli. But when it comes to candy, you don't naturally stop. You actually have to get sick in order to stop eating candy. So candy's the short game, broccoli's the long game.
Yes.
When you live by heart, this is the long game. And what's beautiful is that living by heart will allow you to experience immediate results, immediate shifts. And then you can build on the rock of immediate, beautiful shifts and keep going. There's no end to the options, no end to the resilience, no end to the certainty and the neutrality and the confidence. There's no end to the deepening of the relationships we can experience when we live by heart. And now, more than ever, is the time to shift from everything that's happening to you out in the world to you being a force to reckon with in the world.
Amen, sister. You say it. That exactly. Amen. And I mean, I just have to agree with you that, like, most people don't really understand, like, it just, the peace and the love and the joy just get more and deeper, like within us and in our experiences of our relationships and our experience of our work. I mean, it just gets so rich. And like, yes, that's a broccoli thing. Not, it's a broccoli thing. But yeah, at first, what I like to say is that the easy changes happen easy, and the impossible takes a little longer.
That's beautiful.
So, if you're someone who's been caught in worry or caught in hate, or caught in shame, these things are devastating to ourselves, to our lives, to our families.
I've lived it. I've been a worrywart. I've
horrible.
lived with shame.
It's horrible. So it's going to take a minute, but it's worth it.
It takes a minute to see how deep that all those things affect you, to see how rampant it is. And you can be free of it and feel peace right now.
Yes.
And then something else might bring up the worry again, and you can then see it. You can be with the worry and say, oh, this is worry.
Yeah.
I didn't notice it coming before. It was several days of worry, and then I would be thinking, oh, I've been worrying for days now. And that's not the way it is. Now, right, between stimulus and response, there is a moment. Now it's not days and days and days where I recognize, oh, the moment was a long time ago. Now it's immediate.
Yeah.
And my choices are instantaneous. I can choose to be frustrated with my child for not finishing their schoolwork or leaving their underwear on the floor. Or I can say, oh, look, there's that underwear again.
It just crawls along. That's what underwear does. It just crawls out of the drawer when you don't watch it.
Yes, it's true. It's true. Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah.
Is there something else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
So it makes a difference what we do, and it makes a difference what we say. And most people know that, but it also makes a difference what's going on here.
Yeah.
And I really want to appreciate people for listening and engaging with this conversation, because it really can make a difference for our world as well as you and me and each of us. And now next time, we're going to plan to conclude around resolution, the 7 steps of acting, not reacting. I'm looking forward to that for next week.
Yes. And if our listeners need a little extra help with what we're talking about, if you find yourself worried and anxious, depressed, anything that doesn't serve your highest good, may I remind you to join Wendy on Saturday for her little meditation and prayer. And also, I'd like to remind you that you can reach out to either of us at any time. And we are happy to give you tools so that you can live by heart yourself. Thanks so much, Wendy, for joining me today. And thanks to everyone watching. We'd love to hear from you. So if our conversation spoke to you, please leave us a comment. For more information about how you can live by heart, please go to livebyhearttoday.com. Like and follow this page and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our shows. We're here every week on Thursdays at 4:44 Pacific time. Thank you so much. From our heart to yours, we're creating a better tomorrow because we live by heart today.
And that concludes this portion of
Live by Heart Today!
Thank you for watching. Join us every Thursday at 4:44 p.m. for another episode of Live by Heart
Today!
Let's give a shout out to our sponsor. Thank you, We Are Storically, for making this show possible.